It is Wednesday, February 12th, 2020, and you are tuned into DIRTRACKR Daily. I'm Justin Fiedler. I realized as I was getting my notes together for yesterday, and I'm sure a lot of the people listening probably have some idea who I am, but I haven't been introducing myself on a daily basis, which is super weird. The other podcast I host or co-host, that a lot of you probably know me from, I have a co-host, so a lot of these things I don't have to think about, and now that I'm kind of doing a show by myself, that was one of those things I hadn't really thought about, was like, I don't introduce us on the other show. Ross, my co-host, kind of does that. Like, I mean, I say my name, but after he kind of prompts me to do so, and I realized that I hadn't been doing that. So I apologize if people don't know who I am. I'm Justin. I wanted to start the show off today. A little bit of news from yesterday. The Racing Promotion monthly workshops are going on at Daytona. This kind of a big promoter kind of gathering that happens every year around the Daytona 500. Roger Slack of Eldora was named the promoter of the year, which is pretty cool. Roger is a guy, he's been at Eldora here for a long time now. Tony Stewart hired him to run Eldora when Tony bought it. So Roger obviously has been instrumental in, things lately like the King's Royal and the great races we've seen at the Dream and the World, and a lot of the great things that have happened around the truck race at Eldora. So very cool to see him honored this season as promoter of the year. He is certainly well deserving of that. I've known Roger for a couple of years. He actually used to work at World Racing Group where I work currently, and then he also ran the Charlotte Motor Speedway dirt track for a long time. So really good dude, has done a lot of really great things at Eldora and has done a lot of good things for dirt racing in the past, and very cool to see him honored. A lot of racing to catch up on last night. All-Star still at East Bay, and then DIRTCar Nationals still going on. The DIRTcar Late Models and the Super DIRTcar Series Big Block Modifieds were in action last night. Super DIRTcar Series, Matt Williamson, he wins from the pole over... I lost my place in my notes. Eric Rudolph, Anthony Perego, Stuart Friesen, and Larry White. Williamson continues his momentum from 2019. He won the championship last year over Matt Shepard. I was kind of thinking about this. I wonder if we're almost kind of seeing a little bit of a changing of the guard right now in Super DIRTcar Series. Not that Matt Shepard isn't going to contend for a lot of wins and be right up there for the championship this year, but to see Williamson come out and basically lead flag to flag. And Shepard started up front and actually ended up fading a little bit in that race. But you've seen some different names now here kind of coming to the front in that Super DIRTcar Series. And some of the kind of traditional names, the Brett Hearns of the world, have kind of taken a little bit of a step back. And then obviously, Matt Shepard is going to have one heck of a battle, I think, again this year with Matt Williamson. We're one race into the season. This isn't exactly like this is, we're coming down to the end here to see what goes on. But just curious to kind of see how this plays out here and just kind of wondering. But your top five, Matt Williamson, Eric Rudolph, Anthony Perego, Stuart Friesen, Larry White. Cool to see Stuart Friesen in there. His full-time NASCAR truck schedule obviously keeps him from running a lot of these things, but a guy that's won Super Dirt Week a ton of times, who was fantastic in a big block modified. He's one of those names, we talk about Christopher Bell a lot, we talk about Kyle Larson a lot, and some of these guys that go get in other types of race cars when they're not running these kind of, they're kind of full-time job cars in NASCAR. Friesen's one of those guys that I think doesn't get enough credit for all of the things that he does outside of running that truck, and just how diverse of a talent he is. Has a World of Outlaws sprint car win on top of that. So good to see him run up front, and it'll be great to see him obviously get over to the big track this week as well, and see what he can get done at Daytona. Obviously a race winner and a championship contender from last year. These races at Volusia for the Big Block Modified Series are not points races to start the season. They don't expect all of these guys from the Northeast to come tow all the way to Florida, so these are kind of more... Obviously, there's money on the line and things like that, and there's week-long points for the modifieds, but these don't count towards the season-long points. But I wanted to take a look quickly at the Big Block Modified full-timers so far that they've got listed out, and just see who we're going to have competing for that championship this year. If we go take a look, Billy Decker, Danny Johnson, Demetrius Drelos, Eric Rudolph, Jack Lehner, Jimmy Phelps, Larry White, Marcus Dinkins, Matt Williamson, Matt Shepard, Mike Mahaney, Paul St. Sever, Peter Britton and Ryan Godown are all on the list right now as full-time Big Block Modified drivers for this year, all chasing that championship. So obviously we'll keep an eye on all those guys this week and into the season as the Super DIRTcar Series gets going in 2020. And I've talked about this all week about a lot of these racing series and kind of where they are in terms of the schedule and things like that. And a lot of these series get started in Florida, and the Big Block Modifieds are no different. They're going to get started here at DIRTcar Nationals here in Florida, but then they are not going to race again until April 11th at Can-Am. That's kind of when the season really kicks off for them. them and when points really matter. The other series racing at Volusia, the DIRTcar late models, before the World of Outlaws switch over tonight, as it is Wednesday. Monday, I didn't mention this on the show yesterday. Monday was Brandon Sheppard's 5th consecutive win at Volusia. So pretty impressive streak going on there for Brandon Sheppard. But Tuesday, it was all Tim McCready. McCready starts up front. He leads all 30 laps from the pole. Brandon Sheppard made him earn it, though. If you go back and watch some of those highlights, or if you got a chance to watch that feature, Sheppard was on him for a good part of that feature, trying to get past him, and McCready was strong, though, was able to hold him off multiple times through that race. McCready, your winner, Brandon Sheppard second, Kyle Bronson third, Dennis Erb fourth, and Jonathan Davenport fifth. A lot of these names you continue to hear night after night here in Florida as we've gotten started. You know, Sheppard obviously had a ton of success getting started with the Lucas guys. Same with McCready. Kyle Bronson's been up front in a lot of these races. He's had a little bit of bad luck here and there, but he's been strong. Same with Dennis Erb. Same with Jonathan Davenport. So the switch over tonight now to World of Outlaws late models nights is going to kind of change things a little bit. I know they talk about some of the late model drivers testing things and working on setups and stuff like that for the rest of the week. So, you know, they kind of use those first couple of nights as an opportunity to try to make themselves better, to set themselves up for the rest of the week. So it'll be interesting to see kind of how things progress now tonight. But the Outlaws have already had 3 race nights so far in 2020. They raced at Vado Speedway Park in New Mexico in January to start the year. They did 3 nights there. Brandon Sheppard is currently your points leader for the World of Outlaws late models. He has a 4-point margin over Ricky Weiss. Ricky Weiss, Chris Madden, and Cade Dillard all picked up wins at Vado. Brandon Sheppard is still technically winless on the season for the World of Outlaws late models. He's obviously got Lucas wins and now a DIRTcar late model win to start the year, but does not have an Outlaw win yet. As good as he has been at Volusia and as good as he has been to start the season, I would be shocked if we got through the week without Brandon Sheppard picking up one of those wins. As we get started tonight with the Outlaw late models, I wanted to also take a look at their drivers for this year. Full-time on the list to start the season: Ashton Winger, Blake Spencer, Boom Briggs, Brandon Sheppard, Brent Larson, Cade Dillard, Chase Youngans, Chris Madden, Darrell Lanigan, Dennis Erb, Ivan Lloyd Jr., Cody Evans, Matt Costner, Ricky Weiss, Scott Bloomquist, all on the list right now, signed up to be full-time World of Outlaws late model drivers in 2020. So they will all be chasing the championship and really chasing Brandon Sheppard with as much success and all the race wins he had last year. He's definitely the guy to beat. And as we've seen so far to start this season, no reason to think otherwise. The All-Stars over at East Bay last night for their kind of Florida finale. How much fun is it watching Aaron Reitzel drive a sprint car right now? This guy is just out of his mind. Monday night, you know, goes from 6th to the lead in effectively a lap and a half or 2 laps, and drives away to win that race. But last night he starts. Where did he start? 15th, I think. 14th. Drives from 14th all the way into the top 5, and I was watching the broadcast on Flow last night, and Blake Anderson, who's the voice of the All-Stars, is a good friend of mine, and in the middle of the broadcast, as I had seen where Reitzel qualified, I had texted him and was asking about Reitzel's qualifying run, and we were kind of joking about how Reitzel was, you know, wanted to start a little bit further back to have a little bit more fun, but you know, insane to see him, you know, the moves he makes, and you know, ripping the top, and you know, some of the threading the needle moves and things like that he is able to make. It's been fun to watch him the last couple of nights at East Bay. He was definitely the show. Larson pretty much dominated the night. He was quick time, started up front, drove away to win. He wins over Ian Madsen, Corey Lyson. Aaron Reitzel was 4th, and I believe Tony Stewart was 5th. But Kyle Larson and Paul Silva, they get it done again. They didn't have the greatest week at Volusia. They were in features and things like that, but never really a factor. But they were super dominant at East Bay last night. He did not race Monday at East Bay, but was obviously there last night. He mentioned in his post-race interview that he won't be back in any kind of dirt racing car again until sometime in the summer when he has some breaks. But that his goal was to get to double-digit wins for the offseason. So from the time he left Homestead to the time he starts Daytona, he wanted double-digit wins, and he did it last night. He got to 10 wins last night. So pretty cool to see him get that double-digit number. The All-Stars are now off until April 10th and 11th when they return at Attica Raceway Park. Again, these Florida races, not for points, just for money and kind of some bragging rights stuff. Kind of let these guys knock the dust off and get ready for the season. points will start counting at Attica. Aaron Reitzel looking for his third series championship this year. Sounds like he'll be joined by Sam Hafertepe, Zeb Wise, Paul McMahon, Corey Eliason, Greg Wilson, Brock Zierfoss, and Skylar G, all racing for the All-Star Championship in 2020. As good as Reitzel has been, I would assume that we can probably come pretty close to penciling him in as the champion for 2020 again. I'm not sure that any of these other guys are really going to be able to mount a serious charge for as good as he is and as good as he's been. I definitely like a lot of these guys. I think Zeb Wise, is a great talent coming up. It'll be interesting to see what Hafertepe is able to do kind of coming back to the 410 world after racing a lot of 360 stuff the last few years. Paul McMahon will win races. Same with Corey Eliason. He's been super strong to start the season here as well. I just don't know if anybody has enough night in and night out to beat Reitzel. So we'll see what happens there, but will be exciting to check that stuff out. I wanted to talk a little bit about, the start of the season, and I always try to be positive about things. There's so much negativity about the world generally right now, but about some of the Twitter comments and the Facebook comments and the forum stuff that you see, and I'm going to keep it positive on the show. We're always going to look at the bright side of things. Obviously if something crazy happens and we need to talk about it, fine, we'll talk about it, but I definitely want to keep it positive. And in getting this show rolling, because of my position, I have obviously access to Dirt Vision, so I can watch anything on Dirt Vision, which obviously I've been doing with DIRTCar Nationals and stuff. But this year I bought Flow. I wanted to be able to watch the USAC races. I wanted to be able to watch the All-Stars. I'll definitely check out some of the IRA stuff as well. So I bought Flow. I paid for a Dirt on Dirt membership this year. So Michael Rigsby, you're welcome. I paid for a membership. And I've been reading a lot of stuff on there. My knowledge of the late model world is not as good as it is of the sprint car world. So I obviously know what's going on and I know the players and things like that, but to really kind of dig in on a day in and day out basis, I wanted that, some of that information and access that Rigsby and his Dirt on Dirt guys have. So I'll be reading a lot of stuff over there. And I might check out some other stuff too. I haven't decided yet on if I'm going to do a Sprint Car Unlimited or some of the other things out there available to get more information. But, it's so great right now that there's so much content available, on a night in and night out basis. You can watch basically any car type, between the different streaming providers and all of the great people out there covering races. I mentioned Rigsby and Jeremy Elliott at Sprint Car Unlimited, and the Speed Sport guys and TJ Slideways and all of the different outlets out there. Besides that, I've mentioned before all the different podcasts and things that are also happening. So it's a great time for sprint car racing, great time for late model racing, great time for dirt racing as a whole. And on top of that, all of the social media things that you're able to keep up with, Twitter, Facebook on a nightly basis. It's been really great to kind of follow along, the last 2 weeks here as the season's gotten started between the late models, the mods, the sprint cars, and all the different places that have been going on. USAC, World of Outlaws, All-Stars. It's like I mentioned, great time to be a dirt racing fan, and I hope you're taking full advantage of that and really locking in and enjoying some of this coverage as I've been doing. If you look behind me, I've got multiple monitors here going on if you're watching my video feed, besides the monitor that I actually have all my stuff on. So, I'm able to kind of put different races on, and, my son will be bouncing in and out of here asking me questions about the races and stuff, which is pretty cool too. He was asking me the other night, how many different race car types there are, Daddy? And I said, well, I don't really know. There's a lot. And he said, well, what's a number? And I said, dude, I can't give you a number. There's 5 or 6 or more types of just winged sprint cars to think about how many different types of race cars there are. And it's true. And even if you cut out the asphalt world, there's obviously a ton of stuff. And if you have the opportunity, definitely get out to your tracks this year and check that stuff out Friday nights, Saturday nights, and the big events as they roll through. So let's get a quick pay-per-view schedule check over at DIRTRACKR, which actually I don't even have the site open right now, so let me get that open. Like my loud keyboard in the background. Watch tonight. Volusia Speedway Park again for DIRTCar Nationals on Dirt Vision, World of Outlaws, Morton Buildings Late Model Series, and the Super DIRTCar Series Big Block Modifieds. And then Speed Shift has the IMCA Desert Short Track Tour at the Central Arizona Speedway, so make sure you check that stuff out. Obviously, the weekend, again, will get busy. Volusia still going on Dirt Vision, and then Flow will kick back up again with some USAC action. We'll definitely talk about that tomorrow. Like I mentioned, too, don't forget, no show Friday as I will be in Daytona for my other job, but we'll be back again on Monday to recap the weekend. And I continue to make improvements on the show. I moved my light today. If you're watching the video feed, does that make it better? Can you see my face a little bit better? Is that strange? I'm going to keep kind of obviously tweaking and stuff as we go, but appreciate everybody tuning in today. Like I said, we'll be back tomorrow. You can find DIRTRACKR Daily on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Stitcher, or where you get podcasts. Please subscribe, leave me a review, and tell your friends. I would really appreciate it. You can also watch the show on YouTube and Facebook. You can follow along facebook.com/DIRTRACKR, which is where I post the show, twitter.com/DIRTRACKR, or you can come to the site DIRTRACKR.com, DIRTRACKR.com. News, podcasts, points, the analytics section, all kinds of stuff going on there, so make sure you check that out. You can also follow me personally, Twitter, Justin_Fiedler, and sign up for my DIRTRACKR weekly newsletter. That is available on the site right now. Thanks for tuning in. I will see you guys tomorrow on DIRTRACKR Daily.